Hey everyone, welcome to another session of Feathr Live. My name is Noah Barnett, the VP of Marketing here at Feathr, and I want to welcome you all again. Thank you everyone that is in the chat sharing their answers to the Spark questions. I see you, Beth, Kalisa, Christina, Julie, Dan, Beth, Alexander, Destiny, Megan, Carrie, Jane, Micah, Leslie, Tess, thank you all for being here and so many more. We had such tremendous interest in today's topic of email marketing. And it makes sense because as we're going to discover through some of the research we're going to share, email marketing is the #1 digital channel used by nonprofits to cultivate connection with their audience. But as everyone's highlighting in the chat, there are many challenges with email marketing, and we're going to touch on many of those, not all of them, but many of them, and how you can begin to think well about optimizing your email marketing strategies. Today is not a session of best practices and tips and tricks and magic. We here at Feathr want to equip you to do good marketing. So we're going to provide a series of frameworks that are going to help you and your team think well about email in 2024. But again, here at Feathr, we are the nonprofit marketing platform. We are trusted by over 1,500 nonprofits who use Feathr to run and report on all of their marketing efforts, from emails and automation to ads and analytics. And that is important to know because it gives us on the marketing team who produce educational sessions like Feathr Live unique access on two different levels. One, we get to observe how 1,500 organizations are actually running their marketing. And some of them we're actually helping them with our managed services team and whatnot. And so we're really intimately connected with organizations that are on the international side, the arts and culture, the environmental, the policy side, even like theaters and zoos, associations, member-based organization. And that gives us a front row seat to see what's working, what's not working, what are the challenges there. And then we infuse that into the content we share here with you today on Feathr Live. The second thing that this does for us is it allows us to see how marketing is mission critical for nonprofits. And the reason that's important is because marketing is not a means to the mission. Marketing is mission critical at these organizations. IJM uses marketing to raise critical support to drive rescue operations for children trapped in slavery in the modern world. Pediatric Cancer Research Foundation uses marketing to drive essential awareness around pediatric cancer and the unique challenges that that segment of the that cause area has, and the need to support differently than maybe just general cancer awareness. Or the Japan American Society uses marketing to drive critical ticket sales to cultural experiences and events, which helps them deliver on their mission to expose and to uplift and preserve. These are not means to the end. Marketing is mission critical within these. And the reason this matters is because what we observe is that most nonprofits see marketing as overhead. They also see marketers as just a support center, order takers, if I could be so brave. And that marketing strategy is unreliable. And so it's not surprising that many organizations feel as though marketing is transactional, and when things are challenging, marketing budgets get cut or begin to be underinvested in. Now, we at Feathr see a different story, and that when you adopt what we call good marketing, marketing is actually mission critical to your organization because it is. Without marketing, you're not able to drive the impact that you're trying to have. You're not able to cultivate connection with a community of people that care and are collaborating to drive change on the cause you're working on. Also, marketers get to be positioned as strategic leaders with a seat at the table because the power of marketing can be leveraged at all junctions of the organization's growth. And last but not least, when you do good marketing, you can track and see measurable impact from your marketing efforts to the growth that you're trying to have, whether it's on revenue and donations or volunteers or people or beneficiaries or advocacy. It's actually measurable. And this can make marketing seen as transformational. So in times of growth and challenge, we turn to marketing to drive growth. We don't cut marketing. And we see this working across 1,500 nonprofits that use Feathr's platform. And some of the strategies of the good marketing framework that we're going to share today is going to be embedded from learnings that we've seen firsthand with these organizations. And so we're going to share a lot about how you can maximize your impact through strategic email marketing and really help you drive growth for your nonprofit. But more importantly, hear me out on this, is that what you will walk away with today is the tools you need to have better conversations within your nonprofit about how to use email to drive the impact that you are trying to have at your organization. Now, the reason this is important is because what you are trying to do right now, what Emily or what Jess or David or Dan, what you are trying to do and how you should use email might be different than each other. And so we're going to provide examples and recommendations. But the most important thing you should expect to walk away from today is that you're going to have the tools you need to have better conversations to drive more impact out of your email marketing. So that's the goal. Over the next 45 minutes, we are going to go on hyperdrive to dig into why email matters, the good marketing framework. We're going to talk about some email marketing tips and strategies, 6 strategies. I know it said 3 originally, but I had 6. And so we're going to talk through 6. Some nonprofit examples, and then how Feathr can really help you drive growth in your email as your email marketing platform. And so we're going to get into this. So if you have questions throughout today's presentation, feel free to drop that in the chat. Rachel is behind the scenes helping me out today, and she'll make sure that we capture those questions and answer them throughout or at the end during Q&A. So again, if you have questions, don't wait till the end, drop them in the chat, and we will save them and we will make sure we address them at the end. So let's get into it. Why does email marketing matter? Well, I already gave the surprise away at the beginning of today's presentation, saying we rely heavily on email for a good reason. When we surveyed nonprofits last year, nonprofit leaders, over 400 of them, 54% of them designated that email was their most important marketing channel. Another 32% put it at either spot 2 or 3. So all in, about 86% of our respondents said that email was their top 3 channels to connect with their communities. Now, the M&R Benchmarks report, which is another fabulous benchmark report for nonprofits, found that for every 1,000 fundraising emails an organization sent, they raised $78 in support. And we also saw the already high average open rates for nonprofits increase even further recently. Now, the reason this is important is because, as Taylor Shanklin at Barlele says, there are so many bright, shiny objects. Some are great, some are a flash in the pan. But nonprofits need to keep doing the basics really well and keep doing the channels that they know are working well. And email is one of them. And you all are here, and so you already believe this, but I want to reinforce this. So when someone says, hey, why are we doubling down on email? It's not really working. The inbox is too crowded, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because it actually works. And it's foundational as a channel and then supported by other channels to capture the connection value with your community. So email is still the number one most effective channel to connect with your community. And so we should be focusing on how we can leverage email in our nonprofit to drive impact. And so here are some additional benchmarks that are important to keep in view as you consider how you all are doing and kind of benchmarking against yourself. I'm not going to read all of them. Again, we're going to send the slides to you, but I include these as a resource. So again, when you're having better conversations about how to use email marketing to drive growth this year, you can reference some of these against your current results and use that as a discussion point. Again, the ideal benchmark is always your own results. So even though we're sharing benchmarks today around email, make sure you're always looking at your results and benchmarking your change or as you improve your email against your own results. And the benchmarks are just targets. So if email marketing is the number one digital channel, We kicked off today's session by highlighting, or you all highlighting, an array of challenges that come along with email. Email is a relatively mature channel. And I think the maturity of the channel means the tactics and strategies that we use each and every day are kind of embedded. They're ingrained. We send our newsletters, or we send fundraising emails once a month, or we send emails to promote events. And the challenge with that is, in a mature channel like email, it can be very difficult to know what to do to get better results. And what I would like to do is kind of expose a series of frameworks that are going to help you identify where in your email marketing execution you might want to focus to drive increasing results. And again, this is about optimization strategies, not necessarily core strategies. And so you can look at these 6 different layers that we're going to look into, and you can begin to test and experiment within them to drive more results. Again, I'm starting the assumption that given that email is our #1 channel as nonprofits, it's a mature channel, and we're really focused on how do we actually get more out of email? How do we know? How do we connect in an inbox that's getting ever more crowded? Now, if you know what this picture is, you can drop it in the chat. But this is assaulting. This is overwhelming. This is a challenging environment. And the reason I always share this picture is because I want to orient you as the sender of emails to your community in the seat of the recipient. And Times Square, as pictures, or that's pictured here, is the best picture I can find on what it feels like in someone's inbox from the inbox owner. And the reason I share this picture is because you can see how everyone is competing for the attention of the person standing from this perspective. Kodak is there. There's bigger pictures. There's movies. There's movement. There's all of this different things. There's so much noise. And they're all trying to compete for the attention of the audience. And the sensory overload, absolutely. Sensory overload indeed. And the thing is that we can approach email by having bigger, brighter signs. We can put more billboards up in this space, and we can add to the sensory overload. Or we can try to identify places where we can differentiate and actually separate ourselves out, where our emails become a place of refuge with high relevance, where I actually want to kind of tuck myself into the corner cafe that you've created because it's something I want. I want to get out of my inbox and into your email because I know that I belong here. It's highly relevant. It's highly connectivity. And so we can take the approach of having the nook to get me away from the noise, or we can take the competitive route. If you're looking for like how to increase and add to the noise, this session's not going to be for you. But what I would like to do is advocate how we can create refuge in the inbox for our recipients so that when someone receives our email or they see our email or a little sign in the sensory overload, they immediately rush to it because they're excited to connect with other people or with you about the causes that they care about or the issues that are important to them. They want to spend time with your email. You are just trying to get them to see it and connect with that. That's the type of email marketing vision we should have, not add to the sensory overload, but create refuge from the sensory overload. So how do we actually do that? We know that attention is the most valuable currency in the connected economy. Attention is the most valuable currency in our connected economy. We can see this in just the companies that have the highest valuations. If you think about Amazon or Apple, they own our attention. Netflix is the news cycles. Everyone is competing for attention because the attention of the audience is what actually is a multiplier effect on value. And so if we know attention is the most valuable currency, we can try to compete for bite-sized amounts of attention, or we can try to earn attention and then steward it efficiently. Now, this feels very philosophical, but I think it's important because when we go into a channel like email that's very mature, very competitive, very noisy, it's a sensory overload, as Greg said. We need to know what we're trying to do, what the game we're trying to play is, and that is anchored to attention. And so we have to understand attention to be able to improve how we connect well in the inbox. So here's the first framework I'm going to give you. And this is a framework we've spent a lot of time previewing here at Feathr, but it's it's very important that we go over this first before we get into the actual channel frameworks that I'm going to share with you a little bit later. This is what we call the good marketing framework. And the intention of the framework, as is clear in this photo, is it's intended to provide you focus, while also, in this case, using a pencil, flexibility to adapt to what you learn. And so the good marketing framework is something that I'm just going to preview here and kind of talk to as it relates to email. If you're interested in a full session on the good marketing framework, we have an article that walks through it, or a training just like this that we can include in the follow-up. So Rachel, if you don't mind just taking a note to make sure that we share those resources whenever you have a chance, and also include that in the follow-up. But let me give you the primer on the good marketing framework. So the good marketing framework is intended to be used anytime you're trying to design a campaign to get a specific set of results. So in this case, I'm going to assume that we are trying to generate more giving or donations or ticket sales or some other version of that from an audience that we know already. And so maybe these are people that gave to you in 2023. Maybe these were people that previously attended an event. But we are trying to generate some sort of action in the form of a transaction, like a ticket sale or a donation. Once we have that goal, the first question comes into play, which the framework asks, is who are we trying to connect with to actually drive that action? Who are we trying to connect with that's actually going to drive that action? In this case, it's a known audience, a set of email lists of prior engaged contacts. Now, the second question we want to ask is, what do we actually understand or know about this specific audience? And there's two questions you can ask. What have they previously done that might inform how I connect with them? So maybe it's that they've given previously, they've given to specific programs, they've attended specific events. Maybe they've been a lifelong donor versus some that were just new donors. Again, that could be two different segments. So what have they done recently? What does their engagement look like? Again, that might inform how we try to connect with them again. So what they've done in the past can be a huge informant to how we want to connect with them in the future. The second question you want to ask is, how would this group of people in your community describe their relationship with you? Now, in the case of event ticket sales, they might say, hey, I attended an event that they hosted. And that's how they would describe it. You might say that they're a donor prospect, or they're an event donor, or something along those lines. But how they would describe it is, I've attended an event. It was a golf tournament or a gala or something along those lines, an impact summit that the organization hosted. And that's all of their connection. Now, you might have another segment of your audience that says, I'm a lifelong supporter of providing clean water to children. And ABC organization is the organization I trust to work on that. Those are different types of contexts that a supporter might have. But again, the reason we're trying to identify this at the start and understand the community, the people that we're going to try to drive towards the action we want them to take, make a donation, buy a ticket, is because what we understand about the segments should inform how we try to cultivate connection with them. If we don't understand who we're trying to connect with, we're shooting in the dark on how we're going to connect with them. So that's the first part of the framework, is who are we actually trying to connect with, and what do we understand or what do we know about them? The second part of the framework is that we want to cultivate connection. Now, for the sake of this session, we're only going to talk about email marketing as a channel. But generally, if I'm saying, hey, I want to generate ticket sales from people that have bought ticket sales or tickets before, I might say I could use email. I might want to use phone calls. I might want to use social media. I might even want to use direct mail or other channels, right? Like the channels I can use to cultivate connection is one element of this. The second question is, what is the content or the message or the story that I want to use to cultivate connection? And so in the case that someone's been to an event before, they don't need to be convinced that the event was attendable because they've already attended the event. So that context might inform how you talk to them about the event. Here's an example. If I'm sending an email to a group of people that have previously attended the event, trying to invite them back to come to this year's event, I could say, remember last year when we were sitting in the room and the confetti dropped from the ceiling when we hit our goal and the crowd erupted? That was a powerful moment. This year, we're doing it again and we're doubling our goal. I've held a ticket for you because you came last year and we wanted to treat you well, to reserve a ticket for you. Let me know, or click here to confirm that you want to reserve your ticket again for this incredible experience. And let's celebrate covered in confetti again. The reason I can use that messaging and story with this audience is because I know that they attended the event previously. If I'm sending out general ticket event things, I have to say like, hey, we're having an event. Here's why the event matters. Here's why you should attend. Here's all of the features and benefits of the event. We have good food. We have white linens. We have a clown. We have confetti. You have to go through all of that. And some of the people you're emailing already know that, and other people don't, and they're confused, and it's a lot of information. This is why understanding your community and segmentation is critical as it relates to email, because it relates to email success, but also just marketing success, is because you can customize the messaging, or sorry, the content and the channels you use to connect. Again, today we're only talking about email marketing, but this applies to all channels. The third part of the framework, again, we're trying to move through this quickly. If you're interested, Rachel's already dropped an incredible link to another Feathr live session where I do a 45-minute session on the framework. But the third part of this is that we want to turn that connection into action. And so we now need to activate action. The reason we have cultivate connection first and then activate action is because I haven't driven anyone to take action without cultivating a connection with them first. And so we have to connect with them. They have to want to open your emails. They have to want to read the content. Now they want to click on the link. Then we can activate them to action to actually buy the ticket, reserve the seat, make a donation, whatever the action is. And so at each of these junctions, we can optimize different things. And again, we're going to talk through that over the course of today's session. The last part of the framework is a learning thing. We don't want to just end and say, okay, we got 10 ticket sales. What you also got is you got a lot of insight or data signals about other things. You have a segment of people that actually opened the email and read the email and clicked through, but they didn't take action. That's interesting. That's another segment now I can cultivate connection with, because I understand that they've already been exposed to the event. They went to the website. They just didn't finish it. Okay, now what do I want to do? You also have a bunch of people that didn't engage with any of the content. And so again, when you're re-engaging them in the next campaign to try to drive them to activate to action, I now know that they don't have any context about the event because they didn't even engage with the email or with the advertising or with the direct mail piece. So the good marketing framework is a learning framework, not a linear one, because we want to take lessons learned through the campaign and actually infuse it into our next campaign. Again, the good marketing framework should be used as it applies to email. We shouldn't say we want to use email to drive donations. How should we do that? We should start with, we want to drive donations. Who do we want to drive donations from? What do we understand about those people? Now, how should we use email to cultivate connection and activate to action? It starts with the community that we want to take the action. Then we optimize our emails. This is a reorientation of marketing to being what it truly was meant to be. It's market first, ings second. It's not ings to market. It's market ings. Again, the good marketing framework, deep dive. Thanks, Rachel, for sharing that. You're welcome to dig into it. But again, it's going to apply to email because we have to understand who we're sending the emails to and what we want them to do before we can actually begin to optimize the emails and create that refuge amidst the sensory overload. So how do we actually take your email marketing efforts to the next level? I'm going to share 6 optimizations. I've already talked about one of them, and so I'm going to spend a little bit less time talking through this. But the first is that you want to identify who you're trying to email. There's a lot of different ways you can segment your list. I shared a few of them in the primer on the good marketing framework, but you can segment your email list by engagement. So there's people that have engaged with you before, there's people that haven't, there's people that have given, there's people that haven't, there's people that have attended events before, there's people that haven't. All of that's going to help you better drive performance because you can increase the relevancy of the email based on who you are trying to reach. I cannot over-index enough that if you're looking to drive more impact through email, your first bet is to say, how can we begin to segment deeper first? That's the first optimization, is how do we better segment so that we can make our content and emails more relevant to that segment? You will see better results just by focusing on increasing relevance. through segmentation. A few other ways you can segment, and I'll kind of end with these examples, is around behaviors. So one behavior that is unique is if I sent an email inviting you to buy tickets and you engaged with that email and you clicked through and watched the video promoting the event, now my segment that was originally a one segment, I can now break that segment into two segments. I have a segment that has gone to the event registration space and didn't register. I have the people that didn't go to the event registration space. So now I might segment deeper and say, okay, I'm going to communicate with the people that engaged with the first email differently than how I'm going to engage with the people that didn't engage with the first email. Likewise, there's even a third segment, which is the people that actually registered. And how would you want to communicate with them? Just because they activated to action doesn't mean the story ends. You can continue to build momentum by actually inviting them now to be a part of the promotional strategy and be like, Jane, you reserved your ticket again. We're so excited to see you for the third time at this event. We have extra tickets that we want to give away, and we're trying to get new people to experience what we together experienced last year, this year. Our goal is double. Can you forward this email to two people? That's different because, again, we're communicating within the context of the audience. That's the power of segmentation to drive increased results. You're always continuing the conversation based on the context that you have of the segment. So list segmentation is extremely important. The last one I'm going to use is intent. So intent is very interesting because intent implies that you know when someone's going to do something. And the power of email is that you want to use email to send the right message to the right person at the right time. And so there's a great way to do this in Feathr, where you can send auto emails when someone visits your website. So for example, if someone I know clicks on an email and goes to my website and is browsing around, then they leave my website, I can actually send them a follow-up email immediately through the intent that right now they were on our website and I want to follow up with them immediately. That would be intent-based segmentation, which is you're using a trigger, almost like a tripwire, that when someone crosses this line, we're going to send them an email because that's the right time. And again, this is something you have to experiment and play with, but using timing of the audience to inform when you send an email can be extremely powerful. The other option, which I know is specific to people using Feathr to power their email marketing, but is that you can actually trigger emails to be sent based on engagement in other places. So for example, I could say I want this email invite to go out to this segment. Let's say it's 10,000 people by March 30th. However, if any of the people on this list visit my website between today and March 30th, I want them to receive the email immediately. That takes the guesswork out of when I should send emails, because I'm sending emails when people are most engaged with our context. They're paying attention to us. They've given us their attention. And now I'm building momentum on that by sending the invite to them right then. So they visited my website this morning. They got an inbox in their email by lunch. I'm not waiting till our delivery date of March 30th to send this email when I don't know where people are going to be. I'm using intent data to inform when I send emails. It takes the guesswork out of what's the best day to send an email. The best day to send an email is when the people are paying attention to you. And in part of that is you can use things like engagement data if you're using a platform like Feathr's email marketing tool to be able to do that. Now, I did just share two specific features to Feathr. And so I did want to pause for a minute and say, if you are not a Feathr customer and you are very interested in understanding how Feathr can help you with your email marketing, just put a +1 in the chat at any point in time throughout today's presentation. And Rachel will work with our colleague, Jordan, and Jordan will reach out to you to follow up. Now, if you are a current Feathr customer and you just heard things you've never heard before, or you're not using today, you likely can be doing this. And if you're like, I want to learn more about that, put a +2 in the chat. And again, Rachel will coordinate with your customer success manager to make sure we have follow-up accordingly. If you're not a Feathr customer, you can always put +1. If you are a Feathr customer and you want to learn more about the capabilities that we're talking about today, just put a +2 at any point in time, and we'd be happy to follow up with you accordingly. Thanks, Rachel, for handling that. Let's keep moving on. Oh, last reminder in this section is relevancy reinforces purposeful connections and builds trust. When someone takes into consideration what they know about us when they try to connect, that builds purposeful connections and trust. A great example is, let's say I was trying to smooth you and I was like, hey, I'm going to send you a Starbucks gift card. And I send everyone on this webinar, over 100 people, a Starbucks gift card. But you've already told me in the past that you don't drink coffee. That's not good, right? Like, you're going to be like, thanks for the gift, but like, I guess I could give it to someone else because I don't drink coffee. Or I guess I can buy myself one of those cake pops. But I told you I don't drink coffee and you just ignored that and sent me a Starbucks gift card. Like, that doesn't feel great, even though my intention was to give you a gift and hope for reciprocity. You're saying, hey, you don't understand me. Now, if I heard that you have to go to the baseball field every weekend because all 3 of your kids are in baseball games and you're always there, and instead I sent you a Yeti mug to keep your coffee, or your not your coffee, but your drink cold, or maybe a Stanley cup or something like that, where I'm saying, hey, I know you spend a lot of time at the baseball field. I wanted to send you the Stanley mugs so that you can keep your water cool while you're watching your kids play. That's more personal. And again, this is a one-to-one relational thing that we're talking about today, but we do the same things as nonprofits. We send generic blast, pray, spray things all the time to people who have already told us how to increase relevance. And so segmentation, hyper segmentation, is going to be the #1 way you can drive further impact in your email marketing. Increasing relevance reinforces purposeful connection and builds trust. It's a way you can become a refuge in the midst of a sensory overload like the inbox. Now, I'm going to talk about 6 email performance metrics. And the reason we're talking about 6 email performance metrics here is because how we would optimize to improve each of them may be different. And so when you're thinking about your email performance, again, I'm providing frameworks, not tips and tricks, is that you want to go in and look at your email results and say, which of these key metrics are we falling flat on that we feel like we could get better on? So the first one here is delivery. And delivery means how many people are actually receiving your emails. Now, there are 2 key components of delivery. First is, how many people do you actually have emails for? So one way you could improve your email results is actually getting more of your audience's email. This was something that happened to us when I was running marketing for an international relief nonprofit, is that we just didn't have email addresses for a lot of our core donors. So we couldn't even email them. And what we ended up doing was saying, hey, we send them direct mail all the time. Let's just on the reply device include an empty line that says, add your email for up-to-date information on the world's crises. We got so many emails just by asking and offering a place for them to say, yeah, I have an email. Here's my email address. We also would go out and intentionally do direct mail campaigns, because that's how we historically communicated to our donors and said, hey, we just started this newsletter. We would love to begin sending it to you digitally. Can you send us our emails? We actually use direct mail to capture email addresses. Now, 15 years on, this was 15 years ago, you can use things like digital advertising or social media advertising to actually capture the email addresses of your audience so that you can have more of that one-to-one connection. You can move them away from the platforms into the inbox, where you can begin to have a more intimate connection opportunity with your audience. So if delivery is important, where you're like, hey, we're actually just not sending an email to enough people, that's something you might want to optimize this year. The next one is around engagement. So engagement's like people that are receiving your email, how are they engaging? They're opening it, but maybe they're not reading through it or looking at it or actually like spending enough time with it. And this is typically measured through time spent with email or click-through rates. If you, as a trailing indicator to say, hey, someone engaged with this and then click through. Click-through rate is a separate one that we want to optimize for, but engagement might be a good way for you to measure your email success. If you're saying, hey, we're delivering a lot of emails, we're sending a lot of emails, but no one's engaging with our emails, you might want to invest in a specific set of optimizations, which I'm going to share in just a minute. The third metric might be click-through rates. You're saying, hey, we're sending a lot of emails, people are engaging with our emails, but no one's clicking through. So we have no hope to move them from the inbox into our website to actually activate them to action. Well, there's a series of optimizations that you might want to run to optimize click-through rates. Again, we're going to talk about the optimizations within each of these, but first and foremost, we have to identify which of these 6 things is a priority for you, because how you optimize is going to differ based on what you're measuring success against. The next 3 are replies. Replies is one I see underinvested in nonprofits, is how many people are actually hitting the reply button and sending you something back. Now, you might ask the question of like, we're sending an email to get them to go buy tickets on our website. Why would we want someone to reply? Now, I will say there are a lot of reasons you would want someone to reply. The first would be is that it shows desired engagement or connection. So I might send you an email. Emily is in the chat right now. So I'm going to say, hey, Emily, I want to invite you to this webinar I'm hosting on email marketing strategies. Now, I've sent that email to Lily, Jane, everyone else on this webinar, but I'm personalizing and say, hey, Emily, I'm Noah. I'm hosting this webinar. I'm going to embed like my 15 years of experience into nonprofit marketing. We're going to share impact results from customers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Does that sound like something you would be interested in? If so, hit reply and let me know. You hit reply. I then add you to the event invite. And now you're good. It feels more human. So now when I'm saying, wow, Emily's on this call, like Emily has already heard me and seen me because she said, yeah, Noah, I'll attend. That's a conversion. That's a connection point. And so replies can be used when there's typically non-transactional or non-financial or monetary conversion points that you want to do. Or, hey, can I send you a video preview of the campaign we're launching next month? Because I want you to see it first as a loyal supporter. Let me know. They hit reply. Absolutely. You've just gotten their permission now to send them the video. And again, a lot of this can be optimized through if they hit reply or if they send it back, you automate emails. There's a lot of different ways to do this logistically, but looking at replies as a success metric could be impactful to you in your organizations. Number 5 is conversions. This is basically saying, hey, I sent emails to buy tickets. People bought tickets, right? The last one is revenue. And so I might say, hey, I'm going to send, I'm engaging with these 1,200 people that I want to buy or make a donation to my organization. I'm going to be engaging them over the course of 8 weeks through email. How much giving or how much revenue did we generate from that audience? So it's not the number of conversions. It's actually the dollar value associated with that. And again, you might optimize differently if you're optimizing for revenue versus just conversions. Now you might say, why are those different? And let me illustrate why those are different. So for example, if we were optimizing revenue per email or even conversions per email, in my email, I then want to design it so that it has a direct CTA, meaning I'm sending you this, I'm hoping you open it, and I want you to immediately click on this link and buy a ticket or make a donation, because I'm measuring revenue per email or conversions per email. Now, if I'm looking at overall revenue from my email program over a period of time, let's say 8 weeks, I can then use emails differently. I can actually let them dance in the same, or let them play off each other in the same way that you might expect at a concert, where a conductor is saying, bringing the pianos in and then bringing the strings in and bringing the wind instruments in, because I'm not reliant on a one-shot conversion opportunity. I can send a thank you email and say, hey, wow, we just really want to thank you for how much you invested in our organization last year. Here's an impact story. They engage with the impact story. Now we're going to send them a follow-up email and say, hey, we want you to continue your investment and double your investment this year and give a monthly gift, right? I can allow them to play with each other because I'm not reliant on this kind of one-shot approach. Now, there are reasons why you want to have revenue per email, and there are reasons why you want to look at email revenue. But again, the key here is what you choose to measure is going to directly impact the performance optimizations you make. There are no tips and tricks on how to use email to generate more donations that are universal. It all comes back to what are you trying to do? Who are you trying to connect with? And how are you measuring success? Now we can play the game. And again, this is a great example here where if you even move out one step further and say overall revenue from a specific segment, now I'm not even reliant just on email marketing. I can layer in other channels and other connection points to complement each other, because I'm measuring success as overall revenue generated from this segment during a period of time. And that's how we're then going to use email differently. So Last part of this is the optimization levers. We have about 10 minutes left, so we're going to dive through these pretty quickly, but there are 6 optimization levers inside an email that you can play around with to begin getting better results. And again, these are going to be different based on what you're actually trying to do and measure success against. So the first one is design. Let me make sure. Sorry about this. Oh, here we go. The first one is design. The second is sender name. The third is subject line. The fourth is the content, or actually like what's in the email. The fifth one is CTA, or the call to action, the actual like trigger to take action and leave the inbox and go, activate on your website. And lastly, it's timing. And so let's dig into each of these together. First one was content, the first one was design. So you can swap formats. 2 typical formats that we see nonprofits use. One is that it's a fully designed email. We've basically taken what we've done in direct mail and applied that into email, and we kind of send these like digital billboards or flyers out via email. And those are great for a lot of different reasons. The other format that you see often is just a plain text. It looks like I wrote the email while I was sitting on the subway heading into the office, and I sent it out to you. Now I sent it to 10,000 people, but it feels like a email that someone wrote and was sending one-to-one. I just sent it 1 to 1,000 or 1 to 10,000. There's a lot of different reasons why you'd want to use design emails. There's a lot of different reasons you want to use plain text emails. There's also a lot of different reasons you want to use one-off emails versus a series of emails. Like, hey, I'm sending you this email today. I'm actually going to send you 2 more emails that kind of help continue the story. So you're actually alluding to, this is email 1 in a series of emails. Stay tuned. It's kind of like when Netflix drops 1 episode at a time, or Apple TV does, versus dropping the whole season, right? You can drop the whole season and be like, binge, please. Or you can say, you got to wait till Wednesday next week to hear the rest of the story. There's a lot of different ways you can play with this. The thing here I would point out is if you've always used fully designed HTML, really beautiful emails, one thing you could try is integrating in plain text emails. If you typically depend on plain text emails, you can switch it up and use a designed email. Here's a great few examples of some beautiful designed emails that may be great and represent your brand or your story. The key here is that you want to experiment with these different optimization levers and kind of play with them. Okay, number 2 is change up the sender. By what I mean by sender, just as a primer, is who the email looks like it's coming from. Who the email looks like it's coming from. So typically nonprofits, what you see is that the email comes from the organization's name, or the executive director, or the head of fundraising. So there's kind of these figureheads or organization proxies that end up becoming the default senders for a lot of nonprofits' emails. So what you can do is, if you've always used the same sender, you can begin to experiment with different senders. Now, one thing I'll comment on here before I share this example from the Adventure Project is who you are sending emails to and the context of what you know about them may be the best profit on who you should send emails from. I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say you host an Impact Summit and you have 300 people that attend that Impact Summit. And every year at the Impact Summit, there's an MC. There's a lady that comes up front, is kind of the host, and it's not the president or the director or the executive director or whatever. It's actually the person that kind of like keeps everyone organized. But if you attend this event, you know who this person is. When you're sending them an email 6 months later, sending the email from that person may be the best bet because they are a known entity. Again, it's in the digital Times Square of the inbox. If I see Sharon, and I know Sharon, I remember Sharon because she was emceeing, I might open. Again, it's a refuge in the midst of an overload, a sensory overload. So using sender name creatively based on the audiences, and not just saying, oh, we send emails now from Becky Straw, in this case, the executive, the founder of the Adventure Project. Making blanket decisions like that are hamstringing your ability to be able to optimize your results, because the sender name is one of the most important ways or signals in an inbox as to whether I should open this or engage this, or if this is relevant to me or not. And so again, if you've always sent from the organization name, try individuals. If you've always sent it from different things, you can try things like even first name only. We use this a lot where like we'll send the emails from me because you've heard me. You don't need to know my last name, but you know Noah at Feathr is the VP of marketing. And that's all you need to know. And that's the context you have. The fact that my last name is Noah Barnett doesn't mean anything, right? So I can send it from Noah and you're like, Noah's in my inbox. That's cool. I'm going to go look into that. You can also use a bunch of other different things like the adventure. You can even create these proxies as senders that I think can be really cool and mission aligned, that can get results because it's something that's comfortable and highly relevant to your cause. Next thing is that you can spruce up subject lines. Subject lines are things that we talk a lot about. Again, email marketing is a very mature channel, but subject lines are either seen in an organization as one of two things. The first one is it's an afterthought. We spend weeks writing this beautiful email and getting it approved through 3 lines of defense. Then we set it up and then we let whoever's sending the email just pick a subject line. Or it's like whatever the document title was, like Spring Appeal 2029 or invite to donate to spring blah, 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 blah. So it's either an afterthought or it's overthought, meaning it's like, what are the best subject lines? I know that there's all these words that can supercharge your subject line, and we're going to use like this versus that. Again, I think the most important thing about a sender, a subject line, etc., is it has to be relevant to who. And so the subject line that works for your lifelong loyal donors is going to be different than maybe the one of your prospective donors that haven't really heard from you or engaged with you much. Again, subject line is something you can play with. That's the beauty of email marketing, is it's like a playground that you can optimize for and try. You can test things. If you have 10,000 people on your email list, send 100 of them one subject line and another 100 of them the other subject line. If both of them are bad, you've only sent that email to 200 people and you can choose a different one. If one of them is a standout success, you can send it to the other 9,800 people. This is a playground, not a precise art. Again, consider best practices as guides, not dictators. Number 4 of our optimization levers is you can mix up the content. And what I mean by this is that you can think about things like point of view. So if I'm sending it from Sharon, the MC of the event, I could say, let's write this from Sharon's perspective. Or a flip, something we did when I was, again, in an international relief nonprofit, we actually wrote the email from the beneficiary's perspective. We were helping out with the Syrian refugee crisis, and we wrote an email from the perspective of a beneficiary of our programs. And then we had this whole campaign called I'm a Syrian Refugee. It was really powerful because we just changed up the point of view, and that was really relevant to the audience at the right time. They would have been less likely to want to hear from Noah talk about the Syrian refugee crisis, but hearing directly from a Syrian refugee in that moment, benefiting from our programs, that was highly relevant to them in that time period. And again, it mattered because we were emailing people that had supported the Syrian refugee through our organization, and hearing directly from a beneficiary was the right decision for that audience. Other optimization you can do within content is things like narrative versus informational, length, the medium. You can use videos, you can use text, images, GIFs, GIFs, emojis, non-emojis. You can kind of play with things within content. Again, it's a sandbox. It's not a precision art. Number 5 is you can swap out the CTA, the call to action. What I mean by call to action is, how are you actually moving someone from the email, typically to your website, to actually take the action that you want them to do? Usually the email is like a vehicle and the CTA is the escape button to get them to wherever you want them to go. You could even have a CTA that says, get me out of my inbox. Click, jump out of my inbox. Like, let's get out of here. Let's go through the back door and go through the closet, right? Like, you can get really creative with your CTAs. Again, it's all about trying new things and differentiating. If you've always used donate now, try something different. Give now. This is a place where you can play. Maybe it's count me in, join us, vote now, don't delay, grab a ticket, whatever it is. You can be human, you can communicate, you can use the voice and tone you communicate with your organization. Again, the call to action also can be informed by who you are communicating with. Maybe there's specific words or language that people that are in the know might only get. Maybe there's an inside joke. Maybe there's something related to your cause that can catch people off guard and increase relevancy, right? There's not best practices here. There's only recommendations. You can also change the placement of the CTA. So if you've always just put it at the bottom of the email, maybe try putting it at the top. No one said you can't, right? So trying out different things in email is key. Last but not least is number 6, which is timing and frequency. I've touched on this already today, but everyone is always looking for, if you look at the search volume of when is the best time to send an email, it's ridiculous, right? And you're going to get different best practices, but it's like Tuesday at 9 a.m. or Tuesday at 7:30 a.m. or Thursday at whatever time or 3 p.m. None of that matters because you are not trying to target the masses. You're trying to target your segment of people. Now, I'll give you a great example. You might realize that the best time to send someone an email is on Sunday afternoon, because there's some insight about your audience that Sunday afternoons is when they typically go in. Maybe you're targeting executives or professionals, or you're targeting someone that, like, sending them an email on Sunday afternoon, even though you and your organization aren't working, is actually the best time for them to receive that email. The other best time might be, let's say you're you're an advocacy organization for policy that affects, or that's trying to connect with young parents or parents with young children. Well, we know parents with young children are picking up their kids and feeding them dinner and doing the bedtime routine, and then really not getting back on their phones until like 9 p.m. at night after all the kids go to bed and they're trying to like Netflix and chill. But it might be the best time to send that email and then lean into the timing. You can say, every night, 84,000 parents in our community tuck their kids in. 20,000 of them are unsure where tomorrow's meal is going to go. You're leaning into the moment that email is being received in that time period because they just experienced something. Other timing can be right after an event. I attended a virtual event, I leave, and you guys get back to work, and in your inbox is this email from Noah. Wow, that's interesting. Noah just talked to me. Now there's an email in my inbox. You can play with timing. You can play with sending. As I mentioned earlier, if you're using Feathr, you can even do dynamic timing. And again, if you're not a Feathr customer and you want to learn more about how Feathr can help you up-level your email marketing, just put a +1 in the chat. No stress. Rachel will coordinate with Jordan, and Jordan will reach out to you. If you're currently a Feathr customer and you're like, dynamic timing, what the heck is that? I want to do that. Just put a +2 in the chat. And again, Rachel will coordinate with your customer success manager and make sure we follow up accordingly so that you can use the tools that you have accessible to you. Dynamic timing is extremely powerful. Here's a great example too, where you can layer in things even like digital advertising, like the Food Action Committee did, where they send a single send email. And then when people engaged with that email, they then started email mapping to Meta, where they did Facebook advertising. Another great example here where we were doing site retargeting. So this organization was when people visited their website, they actually showed advertising to individuals that went to the website. Then, whoops. Here it is. Then once they engaged with the emails, they actually sent, or once they engaged with the advertisements, I need to slow down a little bit. They sent an automated email out to them. So they knew that someone engaged with the email or the ads. Through that action, they sent a dynamic email, an auto send email to go out as well, or a smart send email. Lots of different ways you can use this. Again, right timing and frequency always depends. Now, last but not least, as we close, last but not least, we've been talking all about email marketing. And the one true fact that remains true, no matter how many times I present on email marketing, is that most people will not engage with your emails. They will not. And that's just how it is. And you should go into this game expecting that there are a group of people that believe and love and support your cause, and they're not going to open their emails. They're not going to engage with them. And so what you're trying to do in the optimization side is increase the relevancy, increase the likelihood that people will engage with your emails, and that they do. But most people will not. And that means you really have to focus on complementing email marketing with other digital channels. And so this is my number 7 kind of secret bonus tip. Wait, there's more, Steve Jobs style, is that you have to run email campaigns alongside your other digital campaigns, whether that's digital advertising, social media, or even doing what a lot of Feathr customers do, where they're actually sending emails, they're doing advertising against that same group of email addresses. And then they're actually sending dynamic emails out to people that engage with their emails and their ads. So they're using one-off send emails, they're using advertising against that. And then when someone engages, they're using intent-based emails to send emails and put them in the inbox at the right time. Running email plus campaigns is an incredible way for you to begin optimizing the value of your emails. Because again, email alone is the most powerful channel and you need to have an effective email strategy. And I gave you a bunch of tips on things that you can do to explore, not tips, frameworks that are going to help you have better conversations about optimizing your email in 2024. However, complementing email with other channels is another tool that you can use. Here's a great example where we have a single send email from the Cade Museum. Then they're doing digital advertising as well. One stat from Heinz Marketing says companies that run omni-channel marketing campaigns see 2 times higher effectiveness than those that don't. I can't promote enough on how much multi-channel marketing, omni-channel marketing impacts your results. And so if you're looking to optimize your results, think about how you can complement email marketing with other digital channels. The last reminder I'll do in close, since we're at time, is that digital fundraising success or email marketing success starts with understanding your community. This is actually supposed to say email marketing. My mistake. I was thinking about digital fundraising as the outcome of email, but email marketing success starts with understanding your community and why they support your cause. That's going to be the best investment you make on driving better email results, not researching when the best time is to send an email, not researching what are the buzzwords that get people to open my emails in the inbox. Those are additive. But if you don't understand your community, you don't segment properly, you're playing in a game where you're adding to the sensory overload, not trying to create that refuge that gets people out of that chaos. You want to you want to be separate from the noise, not add to it. Again, that's the best tip I can have. I hope this has been helpful to you. One thing I always leave people with is that I hope that you, I don't even have it in here. Bummer. One great thing about marketing that I love is that marketing is all about what the great Miss Frizzle says, is that it's all about taking chances, making mistakes, and getting messy. And I invite you in 2024 to do just that. Thank you all for being a part of Feathr Live. If you have questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. If you want to learn more about how Feathr can help you drive more success in email, put a +1. If you're currently a Feathr customer and you want to use Feathr more effectively, just put a +2 in the chat and Rachel will coordinate with your customer success manager. Thank you all for giving of your time and most importantly, your attention. It's invaluable to us. We'll see you next time on Feathr Live. I'm Noah Barnett, and I hope you have abundance in success this year. Thanks, everyone.